Good. Great. Now everyone knows that we're recording it. Hello, friends. Come on in. We're just doing the. Okay, I see us. Great. Now everyone knows that we're recording it. I'm going to turn that one off. I see us. Okay. Oh, that's what I needed to ask you. Make sure that you have all the Facebooks closed on your computer. Otherwise, we're going to get some feedback.
All right, let me do that. Done.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, friends. This is Dr. Giovanni Washington, and I am here with your, is it August? Your August installment of the Black Goddess Lives. I'm here today with the energy queen, Romy Toussaint, not Romy Oga, Romy Toussaint, and we're going to talk today about conscious creation. I will let her first introduce herself, and then we will move to our card of the month. So, Romy, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so Romy here. I live currently in Lawrenceville, New Jersey. I've been living here for a while since I came from Haiti. I live here with my husband of 33 years, and together we have four amazing sons. And I'm lucky to live 1 mile from my mother and my sisters. And I feel super blessed to be in the middle of a beautiful state with beaches nearby and mountains to hike. And what I love to do is to help people manage their energy and access their vitality so that they can do their work in the world. And so I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I met Romy in person. It's so nice to meet like internet friends in person. I met Romy in person, I don't know, 6 weeks ago?
Yep, it was about, yeah,
8
exactly.
weeks ago.
Hmm.
And we had a delightful lunch at a Korean barbecue spot. And we just got to talking. And I don't even remember like the conversation was going here, it was going there, but it always came back to supporting other folks and helping them get walk in the world and their with their in the best possible way. And so I just had this, genius idea. Why don't we have Romy on? And so here she is, and we're here to discuss conscious creation. And as always, I'm going to start with a Black Goddess. This is a Brewa from the first Black Goddess deck. She is from the Akan in Ghana, and it says on the back that Abrewa sacrificed her own life for the well-being and prosperity of her offspring. She is celebrated because she fed her children by any means necessary. Instead of a space that we inhabit for survival, Abrewa asks us to reimagine necessary as a trope that propels us toward the path of abundance. And then her mantra is that abundance is our legacy. And so, just to tell you a little more about her story, Abrewa sort of angered. She was making food for her children with a mortar and pestle, and every time she did this, she actually would hit God, the Supreme Being, and the Supreme Being got upset and eventually left. And well, first he said, "Can you please stop doing that?" And she was like, "No, I have to feed my children." And so she kept doing it, and she kept feeding her children. And you know, in spite of or despite the sort of edict from God to not hit him, right? And so eventually God left the earth and went to the heavens. And then the story continues with her daughter, Asona, who at the time she then had her own children, and there was a pot of, I don't know, I think it was a pot of gold that was being protected by snakes. And again, all the villagers were like, "Oh, don't go to the pot of gold because you're gonna die." And Asona actually sacrificed her life and retrieved the pot of gold so that her children could have generational wealth. So both of these women are actually revered in the Khan tradition as they call it the I think Bray was called the old woman, but they're revered as people who would do anything for their children, to sac. So in a way, it's a conscious creation. Like they definitely made a choice, and so that's my segue for today. How would you describe conscious creation, or where does that story land for you?
Well, I think it's such a perfect story because it reminds me of when and how we met. Because I was actually in California spending 2 months. I rented an Airbnb. I kind of stopped my life. I was still working, but I was there in complete service of my son and his wife, who just had a newborn.
Yep.
I was there for the birth. And so it reminds me of this idea of doing whatever it is that we need to really pour into our children to have that generational well-being, which is like my big focus. So I feel in connection with Abuela, just like, okay, whatever I need to do, I'm going to just
Yeah.
keep doing this so that I can feed my children and I can be there for them. So I really relate to that
I
very
love
much.
that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. It's
Yeah.
So there's so many ways I think this conversation could go, but let's start with because part of what I want to, or part of what I think is happening in this story, it's not just sacrifice for the sake of sacrifice, right? And I, because I do think that that's a story that women, especially Black women, had. It's like, oh, I have to put everybody in front of me, or I can't even think of myself. It's not even that they're in front of me; it's that I'm not even a part of the equation. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily. I'm careful. I don't want to center that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it's an important conversation that we need to have. I am. Let's start with conscious creation. Let's start with shaping the life that we want. So tell me about conscious creation and what that means to you.
Yeah, so for me, it is all about creating the life that I want. And the life that I want has really three components. And one of it, like the first is family, being able to create and sustain a family that is healthy and strong and is connected to one another. The other one, the second part of that is my life and my purpose, for me to be working in my zone of genius,
Hmm.
and so that and also that I have the sort of schedule and financial abundance that I want, that's going to help me to sustain that life and to support my family. And then the third part of that is really creating a world and living in a community that is also thriving. So planetary thrive, community thrive is just as important to me, and when I am thriving and my family's thriving, then I think all of that is happening. So for me, whatever decisions I make, I take all three of those things into account.
Hmm.
So that's what really conscious creation means to me.
So I tell me again what they are. You said your family, your community, our world thriving, and the third piece was
Is my purpose, like me and
your
my work.
purpose.
My
Right.
work. Yeah.
Purpose, purpose, purpose. Okay, that's a really great question, a really great thing to explore. How does one, Romy,
Mm-hmm.
determine their purpose?
Yeah. So I have this belief that everyone has a purpose and a special gift in the world. And so we have to find a way to bring that into fruition. And so I feel really blessed that I have worked my way into working in my field that is my purpose. That's also my genius. And so I feel like my purpose in life is to help everybody access their energy and their vitality. And by that, I mean their physical energy, so that they can show up and do their work in the world, whether that's being a mom or being the CEO of a company, that they're physically fit and strong so that they can show up every day energized and process and do their work. That they are mentally strong. You know, our mind is the greatest contributor to our work and to the world. And so do they have the mindful practices so that they can be present and focused and able to do their work? So that they are emotionally, right, emotionally strong. So emotional fitness, being able to use your feelings, right, which are a great gift for us, as a way of showing up in the world, using it to processing our fear or sadness or anger, all of those feelings, those emotions, because they're energy, right, that come to tell us something.
Mm-hmm.
And so having like emotional energy and emotional power is really powerful. And then the last one is spiritual fitness, like spiritual energy and spiritual power. So my programs and all that I do, my coaching, my mindfulness speaking, all of that really addresses those types of energies. So when we're energized physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, we have power, we're strong, and we're able to show up consistently and on purpose and do our work in the world.
You know what I'm hearing underneath or inside of what you're saying? It's like when you're clear about your goal and you're clear about the pillars that you
Mm-hmm.
need to draw on to meet your goal, it actually makes decision making quite easy, right? It's like, so you
Absolutely.
have a smorgasbord of things in front of you, but you get to actually look at your resources and say, well, am I physically, prepared for this? Am I emotionally resourced for this? Am
Mm-hmm.
I spiritually, do I have
Mm-hmm.
spiritual wherewithal today?
Mm-hmm.
And is that going to get me to my purpose? It feels to me like if you're actually focused on those three pillars, that everything else kind of, the things that aren't for you fall away.
Absolutely. And if you finding yourself, so I'll give you an example. I know we talked about a little bit of a what does that look like in your everyday making of choices. So I have this thing that's called this full body yes. And so whenever I'm presented with a request like, hey, do you want to go to the movies with me, today? I want to check in with my body to see
Yeah.
if I have a yes. So then, does my gut say yes? Does my heart say yes? And does my brain say yes? So I want to check in, right? So, the rational mind will be like, oh, yeah, you have time to do this, right? Or, oh my gosh, you said you were going to work on your project, you know, or your heart is like, if you're a person who's led with the heart, you tend to be like, oh, I want to please other people. I want to go. I don't want to hurt their feelings. And your heart is open to saying yes, or your heart is kind of like, oh, I had something else to do, or I don't feel like going. My energy's not there. And then, you get that gut feeling. A lot of us are really good at tapping into when our body is tight, when we don't want to do something, or when it's open. So I really look at those three components to say yes or no to the small things and big things. So do I have a yes to going to the movies with you? Then my energy goes up and I feel like, yeah, I want to go. And
Yeah.
if I don't, I'll be like, you know what, let me check in. I don't have a yes right now. Can we reschedule? Thank you for asking me. And so I don't have to make an excuse to say I'm tired. I just say, let me check in. I don't have a yes now. And so I can use that for, again, a small decision like that, or a big decision about a job, about a project, about, a new, direction in life.
So what do you say to the people who have the intuition, or they actually are relatively dialed into what they're feeling in their body, but they deny it?
So I ask them to think about, what does it feel like afterwards when you've denied it? So let's say you said you didn't have a yes to go to the movies with your friend, but then you went to the movies with them, but you're sitting there and maybe you're distracted, you're resentful, you're not really focused, you just kind of like bummed out. Like, is that pleasant? Is that what you want? And, so just to start to remember what it feels like after you don't honor your body, you don't honor your heart or your gut, right? What does it feel like? Does it feel good or does it not feel good? So I'm always saying, does it bring your energy up or does it bring your energy down? And I want to have my energy up.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, I hope that you are listening. This is very critical. These are very critical tools that you can put in your pocket right now today. Check in with yourself. Check in with your body. I love this. I love this.
Yeah.
I just find that I come across people who are, and myself included actually, who are relatively intuitive, like not even relatively, they're very intuitive, but there's so many other sort of external forces that either impede the acknowledgement of the intuition,
Mm-hmm.
or they just override it. I heard someone say that they were talking about, I don't remember what they're talking about, but they basically called a group of people master overriders. Like
Yes.
their mastery was actually in overriding
Yes.
their own body intelligences.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it really hurt my feelings. I was like, I think you're talking about me. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
No,
It's like, oh
I think
no.
there's a lot of reasons why we do that, right?
Okay.
And let's say in our family of origin or in our culture, we're told to be people pleasers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or we feel like we're going to hurt someone's feeling if we don't do that, if we don't do that thing. And I think a lot of it has to do with not having the kinds of skills to speak from presence,
Mm.
speak from, again, those three centers, to be able to speak from I'm noticing that I don't have a yes to going, and at the same time I'm feeling sad that I'm saying no to you.
Yeah.
Right? I'm noticing that there's a part of me that really wants to please you, and I'm committed to working on my book for the next 3 hours. Right? So,
I
so
think that you are changing lives right this second. You're no, seriously. Like I think I have a friend who I like, hey, Shira, I need a script. Like this is the situation. I need to know how to say what I need to say. And so you're giving them a script. You're saying, I'm feeling this way, or I've checked in with my body. That's
yeah,
step one. I'm feeling this way.
yeah.
Step two. Therefore, it's a no for
Hmm.
right now.
Right now.
Thank you for
Yes.
asking. That's step four.
Yeah.
And we'll try again some other
We'll
time.
try again.
It's
We'll try again.
great.
Right. That's
I
it's
mean,
so,
it's very simple, but I also think it's very difficult.
mhm.
Right? It can be very difficult.
It is, and I think it's because of our culture. We are accustomed
100%.
to making an excuse, to trying to help people feel better, or to help ourselves feel better, to not be okay when we don't feel at ease, right? To not like be in the okayness of like the discomfort. And so if we're speaking from these three places, which are inarguable, no one can argue about what we're thinking or what we're feeling or
Right.
sensing. So if
Right.
we're saying that, then They can't argue with it.
It's lovely. No, it's beautiful. I love it. This is so exciting. I feel like I'm gonna go back and put this in the description, like Romy's 5-step process to the full body, to like protecting your time and space, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't say not worrying about other people's feelings, but really honoring your own boundaries.
Your, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
I
it's
think,
beautiful.
and I think you're also honoring the person, because wouldn't they want to be with someone who wants to be with them?
Yeah.
Wouldn't they want to be with you at a time when it's convenient for
Yeah.
both of you? And so I think it's really honoring everything.
I love it. So honoring, Romy's 5-step process. I don't know. I like to name things. Romy's 5-step process to honoring everybody.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
Making decisions and honoring everybody. I love it. This is delightful. This is great. I'm gonna check in. I saw some questions.
Okay.
Let me see what they say. Reina Ortega says, "Hello, beauties." She says, "4 sons. Wow, I'm blessed to have 2 boys." And then she says she's in the San Francisco Bay Area in California. Oh, great. Well, hi, Reina. So Reina's just saying hi. And
Hi.
Emily Reeves is also with us. That's delightful. That's great. And then I think I want to ask you, I'd like to know, I mean, you speak about this, your 5-step process that I just named. You speak about the process with a great deal of clarity and confidence. And I'd love to know how you got there. So like what was your evolution to conscious creation or in conscious creation? Because
That's a
did you start here? Like when you had 4 little kids running around, is this where you were?
no, no.
Yeah.
That's such a great question, because I think we all have an evolution, and there are times when I still feel like I don't have full clarity, right? And it's going back to that practice again of being quiet enough to really feel what's coming on from here. But I started in always knowing that I wanted to be of service to people and to myself. And so I started by leaving, corporate America and being with my children. First of all, that, and then just starting slowly to start into the things that I wanted to do. So I started by learning to become a yoga teacher. First of all, a yoga student. I fell in love with yoga and what it does for you and your body and your mind. And so I became a student of yoga, and then I became a yoga teacher, and I started teaching yoga, and that evolved into studying more about yoga. I opened my own studio in my house because I wanted to have a place that felt super nurturing
Mm.
and grounding, and that was a safe place for people. And so for years I had my own studio, and I really focused on doing workshops that really taught about the philosophy of yoga. And so if you know anything about yoga, it's 8 full paths. It's not just the poses that we do on the yoga mat. I use the principles of yoga as my own personal GPS. And the first 2 and most important principles of yoga are nonviolence and truth.
Okay.
And then there's moderation, non-stealing, and non-hoarding. So there's so much richness in yoga, and I really focus on trying to impart that in every class that I teach, as well as doing like immersions in workshops where people learn more about that, so that they're taking it away from the class and are really able to apply it into their lives. From that, I really started to learn about conscious leadership. And conscious is like, what's happening, what are we doing, what's happening right now, what's the awareness of what's happening. And then leadership is about who we are being while we are doing, right? So that was really intriguing to me. And when I invested in myself, I became a student of that as well. And so I went and studied with a coach on conscious leadership for about 2 years, and I lived it and tried to apply it into my life. And so I put it into my children and into my family. And so my family members know about a full body yes. They'll be like, "Do you have a full body yes for cooking dinner for us tonight?" So so it's kind of fun. But I think that it's really, when you're speaking a particular language, when you're living in a certain way, you want to have the community also speaking that language, because then it's just easier to live. It's like the blue zones, right? People who live in the blue zones, bless you,
Excuse me.
people who live in the blue zones have an idea about walking and having a life of ease. And
Mm.
so I really got into this, and I never looked back. And it's not an easy life being a yoga teacher and being an entrepreneur and constantly trying to get your message out there and getting people to really understand how important these pillars are and to live by them. And so I really focus on investing in myself. So I signed up for programs, which is where I met you, so that I have coaches who teach me how to show up, how to, be business minded,
Yeah.
Because as a yogi, you kind of want to give everything for free. It's like, oh, the whole world. But then, I have a mortgage and I have 4 children and now a granddaughter. And so consciously leading my life so that I'm supported, I'm able to support myself and my family, and that I spread the kind of way of life that I feel like makes the world a better place.
I have to say, and I shared this with you earlier, that talking to you in person for that I don't know hour that we were together, it was so inspirational. I was very inspired by our meeting, and it wasn't a coaching session. You weren't coaching me, but just being in your presence made me reflect, on the decisions that I was making or not making, the things I was deciding to do or not to do in my life. And I can honestly say, so I started working out again, and I can definitely, I've had all these things like I had surgery. I was in, there was a whole year before the surgery where I was in pain and couldn't lift my leg. It was just a whole thing, COVID. We
Mm-hmm.
started working out at the beginning of COVID, and then that died. I've just been further and further and further away from my physical exercise practices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was the next day, but I can 100% point to the conversation that we had about choosing your life and creating, what is the word? How do you modify energy? You call it a certain thing.
Well, I think I talked about daily habits
Daily
that really
habits. I think you're
life.
100% that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
And I
Mm-hmm.
found this thing that I could commit to 15 minutes of African dance every day. And for me, it was a thing because, like, I was like, well, there's not live drums. It doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. Like, it does make a big difference. But just for this moment when you can just go to your house, like, and turn on the TV or turn on YouTube and do this thing, and you feel 100%. My son was like, what are you doing? My husband was like, "What's happening?" I was like, "Listen, I made actually the whole family do 15 minutes of yoga one day. We were stretching, and they all complained. And then, well, my husband still complained, but my child got into it.
Mm-hmm.
He's into it. He wants to move his body all the time, and it's just something I have a habit in my life of, and I think I've always been like this. When things get, I don't, I before I can say academically difficult or I guess now it's in the workplace when there's a lot of work, when work starts piling on, the first thing for me to go is the exercise, right? Or the
Mm-hmm.
movement of the body. It's the very first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost choose it. It's not that just it falls off. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, no, you have to. And I remember this person, I went to grad school. My PhD is in culture and performance, and it was in the department that was like half ethnography and half dance. So there were a bunch of dancers all the time. And I remember this dancer saying to me, you have to also train your body. Like, it's not just about the papers that you're writing or the research that you're doing. You have to also train your body. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
right. So it's not a waste of time. It's not a detraction. This is something that's absolutely pouring into the other parts of your life. It's the part that's feeling overwhelming right now. And so, anyway, that's long explanation to say I'm so grateful to our conversation because I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember what you said. I just know in that conversation, I was like, "Oh, it's time. Like this
Yeah.
is the moment." And since
Yeah.
then, there's been this, and that's the other thing. It's like you don't have to go out and run a triathlon. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't have to go run a marathon. Like just move your body.
Move your
Just
body.
move your
Yeah.
body.
I think we
Um,
talked about that. So this idea of, we stop, but we don't have to run a marathon. And I think I talked to you about Kaizen and taking little tiny small steps. So we don't have an hour, but we have 15 minutes.
right.
We have 5 minutes. And when you take 15 minutes in the morning, first thing in the morning, it's great. Or when you take a 5 minute break and you walk around the block, or you just stand up and sit down at your chair in between meetings, that is movement, which moves your energy, right? Which keeps
Right.
the life force going. And so we can't, I talked about physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional energy. They're all connected. So when we move our body, we're also strengthening our mind, right?
Right.
Because the mind gets exercised by movement and breath, right?
Right.
So that also cheers us up. It makes us emotionally happier, and we can tap into our spirit. Dancing is a perfect way to really get into that because you're just moving all the chakras, and you're just connecting to your heart center, your belly center. It's so beautiful, and you feel good, and you want to do more.
And you feel good, and you want others to feel good. You bring
Yeah,
them in, so you pull them in.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
I have a suspicion. I haven't been in your programs, but I've been in 1 hour conversation with you, and I have a suspicion that you change lives, in even when you don't mean to be.
No, thank
You know what I
you.
mean? Like
Yeah.
it's the thing you said over here, not the content that you plan, but this one of the. There's just a way that you are in the world. Okay, I love Romy, y'all. I need you
Well,
to know
thank
this.
you. Thank you for saying that. And I think it's really about modeling. We're modeling
Yeah,
what we want to, I don't know, aspire to be. And so if I'm modeling it, then I'm living it. And so, and it only takes a little bit of time to sort of like get hooked. And then it's these habits. I teach 10 habits, right? So that can really help people to thrive. And when those habits are automated, you don't have to think about it. It's
right.
just the way I get up. I put my shoes on, I go outside. I get
Right.
up, I sit down, and I meditate. I brush my teeth, I scrape my tongue. I try to go to bed early. I wake up and I drink warm water so that I help myself have a great, healthy poop, so that I'm not carrying that waste with me throughout the day. So they're so small and easy. And we just need to do a little small thing today because we want to live tomorrow. So today, so
100%.
I, my program is all about Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is a sister science of yoga. And these habits, the dinacharya or daily habits, really help us today to prepare for tomorrow. So what is the future that we want to have? I want to be there. I want to play on the playground with my grandkids. I might even coach their soccer team. I want to run around and feel like I'm there. I want to go climb that mountain with them when we're all on vacation. And so that's what I want to do. I want to be there and be healthy.
I love it. Well, tell us. You mentioned your 10 pillars, your 10 daily habits.
Mhm.
I assume that this is something that you teach in your. So you have a program, and then you also have some roaming with Romy coming up, some travel coming up. Tell
Yeah.
us about it, Romy. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I have this immersion because it takes us a while to change our habits,
Yeah.
and so I take them through this program where we start small and we repeat these habits every quarter, so that by the end of the program, these habits are really automated and people are ready to move on and model that in their own life. So that's the main part of what I do. I also run a lot of wonderful retreats nationally and internationally. The next one, I'm part of a big group of sisters of colors that are going to go to St. Martin for a retreat that's all about your health, all about taking charge of your health. And so it's Sisters at the Well, the girlfriend getaway in St. Martin in October.
Love
There's
it.
still lots of space in that. I'm also leading a retreat in February to Costa Rica. I have one room left. So 2 or 3 people can come to that retreat as well. But on my website, Romy Yoga, ROMYOGA.com, there's lots of events. I call them roaming with Romy, kind of a rhyme there. But I love to take people out in nature and adventures. I love to show people like how to hike. So many of us people of color are not out there in nature as much
Yeah.
as we should be. I don't know if it's time. Well, I know there are many, many reasons for that. But I love to take people on their first hike and they climb this mountain that they find is really difficult. And they get to the top and they're like, wow, a 360 view of the world, and they feel great. This is what those daily habits help you to feel like. But I also love to take people out in nature and remind them that this is their birthright, being out
Yeah.
there with the mountains and the trees, and that you feel so good. You lose stress immediately when you're out in nature. So I love to do that. So and I'm also a public speaker. I go out and I do trainings and workshops where I teach about mindfulness and conscious leadership.
This is great. This is delightful. I'm gonna check in with the chat again. People, I'm seeing some hearts that are coming up. Uh, there we go. Ursula Baker. Do you know this person, Ursula
Oh
Baker?
yes.
I think I said I love Romy, and then I think she said I do too. I think that's when that happened.
Oh.
So Ursula Baker, we love you too. Our Romy loves you too. Fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you would like for our audience to know today? They can contact you on romyyoga.com. I will put that in the description.
Mhm.
You've got a fabulous program, a year-long program. You're enrolling now for September, and then you also have 2 or 3 retreats coming up in the next 6 months or so.
Mhm.
Um, the Costa Rican one sounds delightful to me.
Yeah.
Is there any? Is there like what's a pearl of wisdom that you could share with the people watching today
Hmm.
or watching the
So
replay?
I shared about the full body yes, which is something that I just always go to,
Okay.
this idea of just checking in with yourself. So I think for me, the other thing is to try to do whatever you can so that you are working in your zone of genius.
Mm.
So, what is your zone of genius? That's that work that when you're doing it, like you lose track of time. Everybody sort of compliments you for it. You feel like it is your heart's desire, and you do it really well, and you feel like it's of service to the world. So if it's not your job, like the thing that you do that you make money for, that you get paid, why not make time for that passion? Maybe it's painting, maybe it's working with children, maybe it is the way that you massage your spouse's feet, right? Whatever it is that you do, to make time for that, because we have this special gift. And I think that when you do that, you're naturally joyful, and
Yeah.
the world benefits from it. And so I would say make time to find out what is it that you do well, that what's your calling in life, and to make time for that, because someone else needs it from you, and you're
Right.
here especially for that. And
100%.
so, I mean, I have so much wisdom to impart. I think I love to share that, but I think that's one that I feel like when you do it, you're happy, and other people benefit as well.
Absolutely. I 100%
Yeah.
agree with you. There's something, whatever that thing is, it's going to bring you present and in the moment when the
Yes.
world falls away.
Yeah.
That's the magic in the world. I agree. I agree with you. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Romy. I appreciate you coming on today, and sharing talking to me about conscious creation. I think this is very much in line with all the work we're doing with the Black Goddesses, and the deck will be out next year. We're actually turning in everything tomorrow. So, and I think this is a tool that will help other people consciously create their lives, give them tools for reflection, and reflections of themselves in the cards for women of color,
Yeah.
or for Black women in particular. And I'm excited to sort of build this network of other powerful Black women who are changing the world. So
I
thank you
love
for,
it. I thought about one more thing, especially when you
please.
pointed to the card. This idea of investing in yourself. Whether
Mm,
it is whether you buy your deck of cards so that you have something to start your day right with, right? That kind
right.
of gets you centered and focused on how you want to show up the rest of the day. Investing in yourself, like with a program like mine, or just investing in your time to get up and work out. Investing in yourself, whatever that looks like. I think, especially as women of color, we tend to want to put ourselves last.
Yep.
When we invest in ourselves first, then we're there. We're resourced. We're energized for our family and for mankind.
Ashe. Ashe. That's
Yeah,
perfect.
ashe,
Thank
ashe.
you so much. Thank you. That's a perfect way to end our segment today. I will put all of Romy's stuff, her link to her website in the description. Please feel free to contact her. And if you can't find her, find me and I'll find her. I'll pass on the message. Romy, you're an absolute delight. I love being in your energy,
Yeah.
being in your space. And if I show up in Costa Rica in February, don't be surprised.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Speak
Thank you
soon.
so much.
Okay. Bye bye.
Okay.
Oh, don't hang up. I'm going to stop the recording. Stop. Oh, no, wait. That's